Good afternoon, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here in one of my favorite cities in the world and holding a lot of our hopes and dreams for the cannabis industry globally with an amazing panel that we will be introducing very shortly. Hoping everyone is ready for a very interesting discussion and not being forced to run around the streets naked or eating edibles anytime soon. We're going to be talking about branding, and branding has been always a massive passion of mine. I come just to introduce myself first. I represent Euromonitor. Euromonitor is a market research company looking into many different FMCG industries around the world. Historically, over the last 17 years, I've been looking into alcoholic drinks. And it's an industry that I've been very passionate about, and it's an industry that also taught me the importance of branding. And branding is equally important in cannabis, something that sometimes we, I think, forget to talk about. And everyone in the panel today either via the relationship with business to consumers or business to business, as many of you will probably already know them, they've done amazing things, and I hope inspiring for many of us in this room. I will let them introduce themselves, and then we can start with a very interesting conversation.
Start with me?
Yeah, let's go this way.
Hi, everybody. My name's Jamie Pearson. I'm really happy to be here. I am the founder and president of the New Holland Group, which is an international consultancy. I came to this position from being the CEO of Bang. Many of you know our chocolate bars that I ran that company for 7 years. And when I started, we were in California. And when I left, we had expanded our brand into 7 US states. And we were the number 1, number 2, number 6 chocolate in Canada. And then we had a CBD line that made it onto shelves in like 8 European countries. So I know a little bit about branding. That was really my area of expertise, and what I do now is help companies and brands cross borders.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jara Di Carcer. I am the founder of New Frontier Data. In 2014, I came into the cannabis industry very new, without knowing anything about cannabis, really. But I started a company in crowdfunding with $25,000, and I grew it to over $150 million company in about 7 years, with a brand that, a B2B brand, given the New Frontier Data did business intelligence reporting for the industry. Within 7 years, we grew it to a brand that was known from the US into over 125 nations, with over 16 billion in repeat earned media. So very excited to be here to talk about the power of branding, especially on a global scale, and in particular as it is relative to B2B beyond B2C.
Hi, my name is Stefan Röll. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Hemp Group. We do recreational cannabis right now. That means CBD, everything without THC. We have a lot of brands. We have lifestyle brands, brands for flowers. We have retail brands. We have like right now 12 retail stores in Germany. We are very strong in e-commerce. Together with the Süddeutsche Zeitung, we have a really successful CBD program. And beside this, my hobby for the last 15 years was to run cannabis social clubs in Spain. I was for over 9 years in Barcelona. Then I got a little bored from Barcelona, and we moved on to Ibiza and had a little more fun there. But I sold everything last year because I have to focus myself on the German market, because what's going on here in the next couple of weeks, years will be much fun and much things to do. And yeah, we know a bit about building brands in the cannabis market right now, and all the obstacles we have to climb, survive.
Hi, everyone. My name is Taylor Giovanni. I'm coming from Newfoundland, Canada, representing Oceanic Relief. I founded Oceanic in 2017 with my partner. We both quit our jobs and opened up a grow up. Since then, we have founded a few other brands. So we're a licensed producer in Canada. And then we opened up 9 retail stores. Through those retail stores, We then had the direct, business to consumer where we could create new brands. And we created Oceanic Craft Cannabis, Seaweed, and then Booty. And I'm super happy to be here, so thank you very much.
These are all exciting stories, as you can tell. And as I said, hope that everyone here will be inspired. And one of the issues that I've been facing with the cannabis industry, looking at it for the last 7 years, 8 years myself, is this, in some cases, lack of understanding of the importance of branding that all of us in this panel here hopefully fully understand. So I can start with this question. What separates cannabis to other FMCG industries? Like what is unique? And I'm sure there are many things that are unique. And how are you all dealing with the challenges, the unique challenges that cannabis has, both in terms of marketing, both in terms of branding or positioning? And Jane, we can start with you and perhaps the story of Bang.
Okay. I think the obvious answer that pops right into my head is that the ability to scale a brand is very difficult because you can't cross borders. So, for example, in the United States, you couldn't have one production facility and then send your chocolate bars to the 50 different states. You had to have 50 different production facilities. That meant 50 different heads of your kitchen, 50 different rules on your packaging, which you really do confuse activity with results because you're just spinning your wheels when really what you have is a product or a brand that you're trying to expand. And so the legislation and the inability to scale isn't even different in Europe. It's the same thing. And you're watching that with the European regulations. If it's medical and the cannabis is being imported into Germany, or being imported into France for a medical reason, you don't have one facility manufacturing and the medicine going across borders. So until we kind of get those things figured out, branding is a very difficult proposition.
I would add stigma. I know I'm stating the obvious, but the obvious must be addressed. I remember when I started in 2014, when I started telling my former colleagues in banking and government that I was going into the cannabis sector, they started saying, all kinds of things, that I was going to be a criminal and I was going to be in jail. There was a lot of stigma. I saw the shift in North America, but here in Europe, there still is. I'm from Italy. I currently live in the south of Italy. I assure you, I haven't told anyone there that I'm in cannabis. We're keeping it on the DL. So stigma is something that when it comes to branding, depending on at what stage of maturation your market is at, you really have to face that from the get-go. And I think what worked for me early on was really to embrace education and not try to sort of hide from it, but to really sort of move forward with authenticity and with good and with transparency and clarity in terms of what does your brand do. What does it mean to be in cannabis? So I'll leave it at that.
Here, I would say here in Germany, we have our biggest problems are all the restriction when it comes to the marketing. When we try to market over social media like TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, we cannot talk about cannabis. Everybody is talking about nowadays about broccoli. No, everybody knows broccoli stands for cannabis, but even when we try to promote our TikTok channel for one of our brands, we get banned when we show flowers. We get banned when we show a joint. You mentioned in the green room earlier that you might have found an alternative avenue or a channel that you could get away with advertising your product. It's just we have to find web fruits. Like we don't lift up joints in our clips. We lift up pens. Something. And even with TikTok, it's really strict. TikTok is one of the most famous social media platforms. But even when we have showing like flowers in the back, not even in the front, in our store to promote some products, these videos get banned just because somewhere in the back there is a tiny flower. And this is something a big.
Could some kind of humor or even doubling down on broccoli, for example, for that matter, or finding alternative channels beyond TikTok or the major social media channels.
I think the point is that you can do that, but you're trying to run a business, and what you're having to do is find these workarounds, banking, media. You don't get to just run a business. Your job really is to become a problem solver and try to do business, but
And we cannot clearly speak about our products. We cannot clearly speak for what's the best for our products, for what kind of use you can use it, because then we are in health claims, and because nobody in our industry had right now enough money to make the clinical studies and all that. Everybody knows that cannabis is good. Everybody knows cannabis helps for cancer or for everybody else, but we are not allowed to say it. I don't want to promote that cannabis is good against cancer, but there are a lot of other things everybody knows it's good for, to be more relaxed, to get pain relief.
But we mentioned destigmatization. I think stigma is a very important conversation, and I want to go to Taylor now, because Taylor, you had an interesting approach for making your brand and product not just destigmatizing, but also making it less intimidating,
right?
Which I think is an essential part of this conversation.
And I was going to second the stigma. And how we approached it was we had the opportunity to open up our own stores and branded stores. So the first thing, two things I realized when I got into cannabis, that no matter if it had to be medical or recreational, it had to come from a licensed producer. So I started there. And the second thing was that stigma was huge, and it was there. So how do we make this more accepting to all? And so we started with the stores. So my thought process was to make it as approachable as possible, to get people in there. And we did things like, it's aesthetically beautiful. It doesn't necessarily look like a cannabis, your typical stigma cannabis store. It smells like coffee. We sell coffee. And we did things like we had the first drive-through in Canada. We often have, I really promote both sexes to sell cannabis, but I really promote women to sell cannabis. It's kind of, the same premise of jewelry, the nan selling or the grandmother selling jewelry. It's the same deal. You feel more comfortable when there's a female presence there, or someone who doesn't look like the stigma. Not that females don't smoke cannabis, because I sure do. But it did take me a little bit to almost come out of the closet with that, because there is a stigma, especially for mothers, for this, for that. So we really did create this approachable retail experience rather than this transaction where you had to run in and out.
We had an interesting conversation earlier about the importance of celebrity culture or celebrity endorsements. Mm-hmm. And again, coming from the alcohol industry, celebrity endorsements and relationship with alcohol has been a very long story, going on back about a century or so, and even accelerating in the last couple of years. I don't think there's any Hollywood royalty character that hasn't had their own tequila or gin brand in the last couple of years. And we had a very passionate conversation about that, differing views. What are your thoughts on the relation of cannabis brands with the celebrity culture and their cross-pollination? Jamie, would you like to start?
Sure. It doesn't work. And I mean, right now, it doesn't work. People don't care. You could have, Barack Obama selling weed. If the weed's not good, they're not going to buy it. They don't care. Part of that is because you don't have the ability, like Stefan said, you can't market it. So part of the celebrity attraction, if you're a brand, is that you can harness their followers or you can harness their following. But when you're hamstrung on what's happening with your marketing efforts, it kind of hamstrings the celebrity, so to speak. Then, the other piece is we still have a little bit of an identity crisis in cannabis. Are we CPG? Mm-hmm. Are we medicine? Are we a social lubricant? What we're all of those things. Wait, no, we're agriculture. Mm-hmm. We haven't figured out yet how to take the industry and help the analysts analyze what we are as an industry. So throwing a celebrity at it is just another one of those, maybe this will work. But it's an attempt to do a workaround. And, another workaround we figured out at Bang was, I can't do a promotion. I can't we did a deal with Jim Belushi, for example. We had a Blues Brothers line of chocolate bars. And we couldn't promote them, but Jim could. But Jim couldn't promote them like, go buy this chocolate bar. He could go on his television show and say, I use this chocolate bar every single night. I love it. It's the best tasting thing. But then to get the consumer who's watching that program to then have a clickable link, which is what you typically need to convert the vision to a purchase, you can't have that. It doesn't exist. So right now, I'm just telling you, don't do it.
The regulations definitely need
Jada?
to change before anything.
And Jada had some very interesting
So
thoughts.
I agree. I mean, New Frontier Data, we did 2 consumer behavior studies over the past 7 years. Brand loyalty, and I think this is a topic that's been covered, but brand loyalty in the cannabis industry is something that we're still struggling with, and that's part of why we are here to talk about it. So I agree with everything that Jimmy just said because it's on point. I would just add two caveats is not the right term, but 2 differentiating points. From a launch perspective, because branding, there's 2 parts to brand, right? Introducing the brand, get traction, get your brand seen and differentiated at the beginning so that, you can acquire that customer from some other product. There's that stage. And then there's the brand loyalty where you want that customer to continue to buy your product. From a launching perspective and go-to-market perspective, as long as that celebrity is authentic and authentically aligns with your product and what your product stands for, then I actually believe that it could be powerful. But from a market entry and market launch perspective. But when you go into sort of market retention and maintaining your position and sort of that repeat customer, it really is going to come back to the basics and the experience of that consumer and the quality of your product. And we go back to everything that Jamie said. So that would be my 2 cents.
Yeah, I would totally agree. The best example for this is like Snoop Dogg. Everybody would agree that Snoop Dogg is one of the best celebrity when it comes to cannabis. But the consumers are not stupid. When you see Snoop Dogg try to build a big cannabis brand, but it didn't work. Because he stepped not behind it, he just put his name on the product.
Many of them never found out.
Yeah.
Apparently, many of them didn't even know that this was Snoop Dogg's brand.
Yeah, and so it's not just to put a big name on it. You have to have the right strategy. It has not to be just the name and then everything sells by the own. No, it's like quality. It's like it has to be a true story. The people has to believe it. The
You say yourself
not dumb.
there's another celebrity element that we can call them celebrities in a way. They're not actual celebrities in that sense. But you mentioned earlier in the conversation recommendations by breeders or bartenders or
Yes.
this side, which some of them in the next couple of years will become celebrities in their own right.
Yeah, it's like when you look into the U.S. market, like the big brands like Tango, Cookie, they're breeders. They're not the dispensary brands. Sure, like Cookies, they open up some the dispensaries, but the people know the brand behind, and they're looking for Cookies weed everywhere in every dispensary. They buy the Georgia pie because it's from Cookies, And this is what I see also here in Germany. With the will be this restriction of marketing for the clubs, like in Spain with the Cannabis Social Club, you cannot make promotion, you cannot have big signs on the door. It's all like underground. There's just a black door with a bell and with some cameras. When you see a bell and cameras, usually in Spain it's a cannabis club, so try to get in. But you cannot promote. And others with the breeder brands behind, they can promote. And when people know in this club or in this dispensary, they have the strains from this breeder, this is something I would market on.
Well, I think they're authentic, but the other thing we all know is that Cookies sells more sweatshirts than cannabis.
But there's also
You know?
kind of marketing. They sell a lot of
It's a
merchandise
great
and
Trojan
everything.
horse to market.
So in DC, the regulation was such. So I started my business in Washington, DC, and lived there for 20 years. In Washington, DC, out of the 37 plus DC states in the US, it's kind of a weird scenario where you're allowed to grow for yourself, but you're not allowed to sell it, but you get allowed to use it. So what happened in DC is what you have is lots of T-shirts are being sold in DC, like lots of T-shirts and lots of posters and lots of stickers. which I actually found very interesting,
So
what
wait,
you did with coffee.
You're buying the T-shirt and
And then
the
they
weed
gift
comes
you,
with
and
it.
then they
Got
gift
it.
you. No, it's a gift. They gift you the weed. You're paying for the T-shirt.
It was the same in New York, right?
Right now, yes. Right now, yeah.
At the beginning, yeah.
Yeah, in Oregon, it was lighters. You buy the lighter, you get the weed with it.
There you go.
Yeah, exactly.
But even if it's not mandated by the weirdness of the regulatory environment, what you did, Taylor, in terms of like it's a coffee shop, you come and get coffee, and then you also have these other things. There's some genius there, and it does make it approachable. And I think from a branding and traction perspective, in early stage markets where there is still that stigma, that's something that I would certainly consider. I'm not saying you have to gift the product, but like incorporate that in it.
Right. And our thought process was if I can get a butt in a seat, then we can educate and get branding into the consumer. In theory, of course, everyone would think that a celebrity would work, but like everyone said, there's so many loopholes that we have to go through that we can't actually do it properly. So we're just throwing it at the wall and it's not sticking.
You have to find the right celebrity.
You have to,
just
but
the
you
big
have,
name doesn't.
But legally
successful.
in Canada, you're not unless they own your company or have part ownership of your company. They can't really do it justice like they do with alcohol or anything else. I mean, I'm influenced every day by celebrities, but not on cannabis.
Yet, at least not
Yet, yes, and I believe it's possible, but I believe the first thing that needs to happen are the regulations really need to kind of round out, and hopefully Canada gets there.
I think that kind of brings me to my last key point, which is what I've called in the past this kind of fetishization or hyper-focus on pricing versus THC content, which I think is a plague for the industry in North America. It devalues many of the brands.
High THC, low price.
What's your opinion from the dispensary perspective as well in Canada, Peter?
Sorry, well, from our perspective, I mean, we, like I said, we have the ability to create our own brand. So, I mean, obviously we saw exactly how the market was going. So we created Booty, which is our Pirates Booty, better than Booty value brand. And it's 50% of our sales, and that's exactly what's selling. High THC, low price, and it's, value ounces.
It's a self-fulfilling prophecy, though, and it was one of my big frustrations at Bang is that
frustrating every day.
the dispensary owner would say, I looked at the data and everybody wants 30% or higher. I'm like, but that's all you're buying. So you're offering that to them. The dispensaries had to do a better job of educating that it's the terpene, the entourage or ensemble effect. We've got to do a better job of, as an industry, of educating the consumer. But Giada knows the data on that.
Well, I was going to add, that's so true, the self-fulfilling prophecy. Not to say that we haven't all gone to the dispensary and looked for the high THC and low-cost product, because I know we all have. But it goes beyond that, and depending on your customer, who your target audience is, if you're a baby boomer that's going in to actually, because you have joint pain, you're probably not going to be looking for the high THC, low-cost product, right? And that population group, the demographic is growing. If you're a parent that has a child with a condition, you're going to look for purity and quality and standardization. So I think that I do believe, I agree 100%, that education is really important. And the most recent information and data that's being collected about the consumer behavior that takes into account the growth of various demographic groups and their traction in the space does show that there is difference in behavior amongst different consumer archetypes. That is not just one bag, everybody wants the high THC, low cost. That is, while it's still prominent, it is not true for everyone, and it certainly is not expected to continue to be so, which means two things for those who are new to the space. One, you can find your niche and think about who your audience is, and two, once you do, know how to market to them, because it's not cookie cutter.
Well, one of the things I also saw was the consumer is purchasing an effect. The majority of consumers are not walking in and saying, Stefan, I know you're an exception. He wants to know what breeder and all of that. But the majority of the consumers walk in and they say, I'm struggling with sleep. Well, then you have all these brands that are calling their products Sleep or Bliss or Calm or Focus. And so we know that because those brands are selling, and the most popular effect that's getting purchased right now is sleep, we know that the consumer comes in and they want to buy an effect. From that perspective, I heard the brilliant Rob McElvoy, I don't even know if he's in here, but if you ever get to meet him, I know he's at the conference. He said this: every other industry starts with the consumer and works backwards. We figure out what does the consumer want, and then we take their order and we deliver it to them. Cannabis starts with the plant and goes forward. Like, well, I've got this purple flower, I've got this flower, I've got this strain, or I've got this. And then you figure out what can you do with it and what is it good for. We need to be starting with the consumer first. If you want to build a brand that lasts, you got to start with what the consumer wants.
Yeah, I think this is a good thing, and this is also one of the problems we're facing with the upcoming decriminalization here in Germany and with the clubs. When we see the clubs maximum 500 members, there will be a lot of clubs with less members than 500, but they also have to give their members a variety of strains, and this is something. A small club with, let's say, 100 people, how can they grow at least 10 different strains for all the different things that you need? This is also a big problem, I think, because like we have in my clubs in Spain, for me it was always a must that I had to have at least 20 different strains of weed in the shelf, because I think this is what the customers want. They want to come in a dispensary on a club and they want to choose, not from 1 or 2 or 3 different strains. They want to come in and get flashed about all the variety of strains you can get. And then the bartender has to explain, has to educate.
Yeah, well, you smoke something for the day and you smoke something for the sleep and you smoke something before you eat, and they're not the same. Like, you got to have variety. Can the clubs... Can you have one club that just focuses on edibles? I know edibles aren't allowed. Okay, that was a terrible question. Can you have one club that focuses on this and one club that focuses on that, and then you sell to your members and then they can exchange
we will see
with
that.
The lighter?
That's all the details we are waiting for the upcoming law. That's what I always say. It depends all about the details. It makes absolute sense that the clubs can trade their genetics in between, because nobody can grow all strains perfectly.
What's going to be, I think for sure, and we know this, everybody in this room is a cannabis entrepreneur. We will find the workaround. That's what we do.
Creativity and authenticity.
We are used to it. We have to do it right
I would
now.
like us to open up to the floor, because we have only a couple of minutes left, and hopefully there are a couple of questions. Anyone that would like to ask anything, or any brands that you find inspiring from the global community or the global industry right now? Anything? Is everyone speechless?
Yes, I'm Harry. Danke, Michael. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Luc Monroy. I'm a filmmaker. There's one brand from the US that comes to my mind now that you're asking the question, a brand that first had the objective to change something. I don't want to say any names. It's a vaporizing brand who said, we want to end tobacco smoking. That's what the CEO told me in the interview. And I was like, wow, that's a very powerful statement. And actually, everything they're doing nowadays is like helping consumers within the cannabis industry to get rid of the tobacco, which I think is great. And like, how many lungs had a positive effect, including my own, that I tried this, and it actually works. So I would ask you on the in the panel here, what inspiration keeps you going for your own projects? Which vision do you keep working on? And also the rest of you, we have very, very successful CEOs sitting here. What do you think is the overall potential of this industry to create a positive impact for patients and beyond?
It's a large question, but
very loaded question.
I think what keeps me going is, when we first started this, I was like, okay, how do I help as many people as I possibly can? And, in terms of branding and getting around all the regulations, we really just try to, like Jamie said, get cheeky with the branding and make it universally known. Oceanic was, it's healing to all. People understand all over the world that the ocean is healing. Seaweed, the weed is in the name, so that's cheeky. And but ultimately, we just want to help as many people as we possibly can, so we just keep going.
And I would say, you're talking about patients, I would not say that we have just the patients in mind. I have the cannabis consumers in mind.
Right.
The cannabis patients are just a really small group of all the
Shouldn't
people.
be a taboo to talk about recreational as well, because recently it has become almost a taboo to acknowledge the importance of people just consuming cannabis for fun, for recreation.
Yeah.
Recreation is part
for
of
the
mental
first
health.
time.
Yeah, and
you
then
know,
that's the far bigger market, I think. So my focus is not on the cannabis patients. There are a lot of pharmaceutical companies, medical cannabis companies. They're focused on them. I'm focused on the rest.
I remember hearing about the triple bottom line years ago. I'm not going to say how many, it's totally going to age me. But I remember thinking, wow, what a great concept. I had heard about the double bottom line, right? You make money and you do good. But then I heard about the triple bottom line. I'm like, what is this triple bottom line? And it seemed very theoretical to me until I entered the cannabis industry. And to this day, it really motivates me. Triple bottom line is about, yes, you can make money. It's okay to make money. 2, yes, you can do good. You can impact patients. 3, you can also actually be a catalyst to change. Mm-hmm. And I think that there is an opportunity in the cannabis industry to do so on many levels. I mean, ESG is one element. Because it's still a micro system at a global scale, there is an opportunity to test things and then show their value and effectiveness and have them been adopted outside. We've seen it with innovation. So that's what excites me. I'm a little bit of a nerd. Okay, I'm a lot of a nerd. But that application right there gets me going. And in terms of how does it affect all of you, I'd be surprised if you're not all somehow thinking about that and or doing it. So
The industry's doing it. We're changing the world. It's frustrating. It's a difficult industry. But I want all of you to really, first of all, pat yourselves on the back. I really can't say this enough. You're here. You spent money. You came. We all have that passion in common. And I want to say thank you really genuinely to the ICBC. I've been coming to this conference for 6 or 7 years. The fact that we've moved venues 3 or 4 times and it keeps getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And this industry, we have conversation talking about legalization, and we know that legalization ends addiction to opiates and addiction to alcohol and addiction to tobacco. We are changing the world. You guys, give yourselves a hand, seriously.
Let's hear it again for this panel. Is there anything you want to say in closing?
I think everything is covered, and let's continue with branding exercises and making the industry bigger and better for everyone.
Fantastic. Thanks again, one more time. And I think they made